Hey guys, welcome back to the Center Podcast. This is Emily and Joris again. This week we're going to be talking about social media and our different respective views on different topics involving social media.
Yeah, so funny enough, when you say social media, it feels like such a big topic because there's just so many platforms, so many different types of social media. Like some are more video oriented, some are more picture oriented, some are just text oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some kind of bigger questions I want to ask you, but I think a good place to start is, what kind of social media do you have?
So I do have different social media. I'm not very active on my social media. I think the social media that I'm most active on is Instagram. And that activity comes in the form of like reposting stuff onto my story. I'm very private as an individual when it comes to what I share on social media. A lot of my my profile is private, but a lot of that is, just selfies, like stuff that's not very personal at all. I also have a TikTok that I don't post much on at all. I kind of just watch the stuff, do a little bit of brain rot at the end of the night. And I have YouTube that I also don't post on, but I consume media on YouTube.
Is it weird to say that I feel like it's more daunting to post on some of those than others?
Oh, for sure. Like, YouTube is so daunting because it's like long form media.
Yeah, funny enough, when I was first putting our first episode on YouTube, I remember that I had to post some YouTube videos for class. Some of my classes required me to post YouTube videos. And I didn't realize that you had to check so many boxes, put in so much. Well, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. It's like a 5-minute thing to just write down a description, put a thumbnail. But YouTube has a lot of restrictions on what you can do. Like, before they told me I can't put my own thumbnail unless I have a certain amount of subscribers. I have to choose an auto-generated one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but funny enough, because it's just a still image for the podcast.
There's only one option.
Literally.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, honestly, I find it's daunting to post on any social media.
Yeah? Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like you say you're a private person, but I feel like I take that to a bit of an extreme where it's like, well, who cares who would want to see what I'm doing?
Mm.
But I don't know where that comes from, but that's just kind of my mentality. And if I post on social media, you can bet I've taken a lot of time and effort to put whatever I do put up there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, like I said, it's a lot of reposting stuff. I like to think that I am private, not secretive. There's nothing about my life that I'm like purposely trying to keep under lock and key or locked up in vaults or anything like that. It's more a matter of I would never want to post my friends or family without permission. I am a very live in the moment kind of person. So I'm the friend that just sucks at getting pictures taken. Like, we're on vacation and I can go the full 5 days without taking a single picture because I'm just like in the moment. I honestly need a friend in my friend group that's just like, wait, stop, let's take a picture, because if not, I just won't have any proof that anything in my life happens. Like proof or pictures or it didn't happen. Pictures or it didn't happen, that's me. Like, for everything. Nothing happened.
The only people that can verify that it happened were the people that were there.
Who were there, yeah, exactly. So I'm just very private in that sense, and I just don't like the idea of people having open access to me. The access people have to me, especially on social media, is a very curated access, where I'm going to put out things that I agree with, that are, congruent with my views in life or my own personal spirituality or religion. I have a wide variety of friends and a wide variety of followers and people who have all sorts of different viewpoints, and I just don't feel like my social media should be the place where people feel the need to consume it or feel the need to have my opinion shoved down their throat. That's what Coffee Talk Conversation is for. That's what this podcast is for. People can go and seek it out should they want to hear it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to see it on their feed as soon as they open up their Instagram,
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly really agree with that stance. Alongside with, well, I'm not a very entertaining person. I've been told I'm funny, but I don't agree. But social media, like, as we know, has done a lot of amazing things, but it has also led to a lot of very unfortunate things.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what do you think are the best benefits of social media? And then we can talk about the downfalls.
Sure. Well, I think the standalone answer that a lot of people would give you is connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I know you said we'll get into the negatives later, but personally, I think connectivity is a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's great in the sense that, like, for example, you yourself have family in other countries, and that's, like, the easiest, free, most, like, easy way to just communicate with them. It doesn't cost anything. There's plenty of places that have public Wi-Fi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a way of keeping connected, and it's a way of sharing lives in a very intimate way, where, anytime that there's somebody who has a new baby along the way, where do you find out? Usually Instagram, with, like, a gender reveal or baby reveal, whatever it may be. So I definitely think connectivity. I think networking, of course, like even just this podcast, we're doing so much of the networking for it, so much of the pushing it out there and getting people to hear it by trusting Instagram's algorithm will send it to people who are interested in what we have to say.
Right.
And so that's certainly one way. And then honestly, I think the third point that I really love, I really emphasize this one, is escapism and creativity. Social media is such a beautiful, beautiful place for you to just get out of your own head for a few hours. And I think it's like any drug. It's like you need to be careful in the way that you consume it, right? You don't want it to become overwhelming. You don't want it to become something that you're dependent on or addicted to, but it's something that can help you step away when you've been at work all day long or at school all day long and your brain is just mush, to go on YouTube and watch a makeup tutorial, to go on YouTube and watch, a gaming channel. And just, like, you don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to have the game or actually put in hours to playing it. You could watch someone else do it.
Right.
And it's almost like a form of decompression, and creativity. Like, being able to go online on Pinterest and just look up, like, I just moved into a new apartment. I need inspiration for my bathroom, and just scroll endlessly on so many beautiful, like, DIYs, recipes, inspiration pictures and stuff like that. And just finding community in the little things, even if that little thing is aesthetics, and finding a community of those people and finding your tribe online.
Yeah. You think that's really important in terms of using social media, finding a tribe?
I think so. I think that's something that honestly magnetizes a lot of people to social media is one of two things. Either you're going to find your online tribe and you're going to find people and communities and spaces that hold the same values, same interests, same aesthetics, same, hobbies, whatever it may be. Or people go online to hate. And they want to hate collectively in a forum kind of way because it gives them this sense of, oh, well, this is my opinion about something, and if 1.5 million other people also share that opinion, then my opinion must be right. And so it's way easier to hate collectively than it is to hate individually.
It's a very interesting choice of words, though. Because we do see a lot of that. We see a lot of dissenting opinions, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
I remember I saw a post once that someone posted on Twitter saying, people on the internet will argue about everything. Here's an example. This is a stick.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then underneath it was like, that's a branch, that's a stick, that's a branch, that is a twig.
Yeah.
And it's funny how crazy it devolved and how quickly it devolved. I didn't even have to scroll that much to see the immediate reactions.
Right.
Or one of the more entertaining ones for me, it's the math problems, where everyone is saying, okay, what is the answer to this question? And sometimes they'll put in a couple multiple choice and they'll have the right answer in there, or they won't even have the right answer at all. And then everyone's like, did any of you pass the 6th grade? I mean, did you forget PEMDAS? Or there's another one that I don't know.
PEMDAS is the one I know.
There's a different one that people use that I'm not remembering, but everyone's getting different answers and everyone's just arguing. And it feels like everyone's is fighting to be right.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from? That desire to be right and feeling the necessity, feeling the need to prove it.
Honestly, that's a really great question, and I can't say that I know definitively. I think a large part of it is praise. I think having the right answer puts you in the individual's head, puts you as something to aspire to, something where it's like, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about, and we should all praise them for having the right answer, for being the guiding light. You know, it's so funny because we're talking about these things that obviously many people would probably have seen on social media as well. The stick, the math equations that you see on all these meme pages and stuff like that. But I actually saw something really interesting. I think it was today. It was a woman. This is just like pushed in my For You page. It was a woman who she had, I think, a corneal replacement. Because she was blind and she had donated cornea from a donor, and
wow,
yeah, pretty insane stuff. And so she wears these hard contact lenses. I don't know if you guys know this, but like usual contact lenses, like you go to the doctor and they give you contact lenses, they're soft and they're like flexible, but not all contact lenses are like that. Hers, for example, are hard, like hard plastic. And they're oxygen permeable, so like oxygen moves in and out of them. She could sleep in them if she wanted to. Like, they're very different from the contact lenses we see on a day-to-day basis. And the only way to remove them is because it's hard, it doesn't fold, so you can't pinch it, you know, out of your eye the way you normally do with normal contacts. You have to use like a special little plunger to kind of grab it and take it out of your eye. And she's explaining how like sometimes, you know, it's kind of a task you have to learn how to do, because if you misplace the plunger, it doesn't come out as easily. And somebody in the comments was like, LOL, this lady's so dumb. Like, why don't you just use your fingers and pinch it off? And the lady just responded with, you can't pinch a hard contact. And I just kept thinking, like, man, this girl really thought she ate. Like, this girl really thought, like, I know what the problem is. Why don't you just use your fingers and fold it? Like, for not 1 second did that girl stop to think, I wonder if she's already tried that. Or I wonder why she would even use this weird plunger thing. Like, that's a quick 5-second Google search, but she was so certain that she had the right answer that in the 30 seconds it took her to type out that message, at no point was her brain signaling her, what if you're wrong? And now she's been made to look like a fool.
I feel like that's me. I always have to like, wait, am I, even if I'm, you always ask me like, bet your life on it, and I'm like, no, I gotta Google it, hold on.
It's funny because with that, I always say, like, are you sure? And you're like, yeah. And then I'm like, you're positive? And you're like, yeah. And then I'm like, bet your life on it. And then it makes you second guess it. Only on that third one, I almost wonder how many things could be avoided, how many arguments could be avoided if everyone had that 3-step process. That once you formulated an opinion, are you sure? Yes. Are you positive? Yes. Bet your life on it? That's a hill you're going to die on, because you will be crucified on that hill. If you're wrong, you're going to get flamed.
Yeah, by somebody else in the comments who actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me. I feel like social media has brought out all different sides of people that we wouldn't normally see on a daily basis. Because that kind of argument where people will get really heated in the comments, that's the kind of thing you used to see back in the day with you and your group of friends, and you're just arguing and debating. Typically it was about some nonsense, but it was the thing to do back then, and I feel like it's migrated, but now you're doing it with strangers who don't know what the limit is.
Right.
And I feel like it just makes everyone sound a lot angrier. Like, to the point where they're making commercials about it. I don't know if you've seen like that Hillshire Farms commercial.
No, I haven't.
It literally starts off like this guy waking up, and from the moment he wakes up, he looks at his phone, and it's like rage bait, rage bait, rage bait. And they're like, how about we take a second to like stop and grill and enjoy these Hillshire sausages? And it was like an ad for the summer, and I'm like, that's so funny that this has become such a common thing that we can use it as something on an advertisement, and people will just get it.
Yeah. It's like you could use it for comedic relief at this point, because everyone's been on the receiving end of that rage bait before.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So do you think that like the fact that people are just so... Do you think that people becoming angrier and angrier at one another has something to do with that?
I think so. I think there is a mass opinion intolerance in today's social media generation. I think back then, of course, you know, everyone has an opinion. Everyone will be divisive in their stands on that opinion. It could be anything. It could be literally anything, like the stick. Like you said, it's like, I'm going to say this is a stick, well, you say it's a branch. I feel like there was once a time where people felt so secure in their values, in their ideals, and in their own opinions that somebody else's contrary opinion did not pose such a threat to yours. You know, because I feel like that rage comes from something else. Like, are you really that mad at me that I say it's a branch and you say it's a twig? Or do you feel like I'm questioning your intelligence? Do you think that I'm questioning your judgment? Do you think that I think I'm better than you because I say something else, like, that's different from yours? You know, it's always something way deeper. There's no way that you're actually that upset over a branch, you know? Like, you're upset at the principle of the matter. And I feel like it comes from a generation of insecure individuals who feel the need to shout and curse and just do anything they can to rip you out of the sky because that's the only way they'll be taller than you.
Right.
You know? And I feel like once you're secure in your values and in your ideas and your opinions, you can't be canceled. Like, what are you going to do? Tell me I'm wrong? Okay, you feel that way, I feel differently. Now what? How are you going to cancel me now? You know? And so I feel like this hatred and this rage and just all these people who are so angry on social media, really, it all comes from such an opinion intolerance. People are so allergic. People are so reactive and intolerant to the idea of differing opinions. Because now your opinion has been tacked on with morality. Now there's such a thing as a right and wrong opinion, you know, which is just objectively not true. This is something that only exists within very recent, like, social media generations.
Right. I'd honestly go as far to say that it's tacked on to your self, a lot of people's self-worth.
Yeah, your sense of self, too.
Because what you mentioned earlier about praise really got me thinking. It's like, we hear about Gen X, and they were never praised for their accomplishments. It was always viewed as, well, that was you were supposed to do that to begin with. You're only worthy of praise when you do something truly exceptional.
Extraordinary, yeah.
And now that pendulum has swung in such the opposite direction, where we have the whole participation trophy debate, which personally I'm not a fan of it, because it doesn't allow you to strive to be better.
Right.
It just allows you to look at what you've done and be content with it. And I understand that there's a limit to it. You can't just go your entire life not being content, because that's how you get hustle culture. And if that's what you want to do with your life, sure, but at the same time, not everybody's about that, and glorifying that to people who just feel like they need to because that's what the thing to do nowadays, is how you get a lot of people who are dissatisfied.
Yeah. That's generational anxiety too.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting that when the pendulum swung and is now in the opposite direction, where everyone needs praise all the time because they were getting praised for doing the bare minimum, now it feels like, well, I need to get praised by the people online.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what do you think is something we can do to counteract that?
See, I think that this is a difficult topic, because the way at least American society is structured is, before the age of, I'll say 22, there are so many, an abundance of opportunities for praise. Because even if you were one of those really unfortunate people that your parents were not the most praising people, let's say, like, it's just culturally you've been expected to excel, right? Your parents aren't going to give you the kind of praise that you're looking for, that you're seeking validation in, but school might. You know, there's so many opportunities in the public school system for gold stars, you know, and then you move out of public school and you maybe go into college, and there's still opportunity for gold stars in the form of Dean's List, summa cum laude, stuff like that, you know. The amount of people, myself included, that's why I feel like I'm able to speak on this, is because I was that kid who was always striving for the blue medals, who is always striving for, cords at graduation and stuff like that. But I feel like once you turn 22 and you're out of school, now all of a sudden there is no more opportunities for gold stars. There is no more opportunity for praise. Or the opportunities for praise are extraordinarily limited.
Like few and far between.
Super few and far between. Because it's like a matter of like employee of the month because you made enough sales, or something like that. Something where it's like commission can be seen maybe as a gold star. Promotions are very few and far between, especially with how many small businesses and local businesses are booming nowadays. You don't have these massive corporations where you can, or really, I feel like the world of promotions exists on mid-scale companies, things that are not so ginormous that you're just one number out of like millions, but you also can't have it be such a small business where it's like, well, it's just Pablo for the 18th time because it's just two of us working here, and so it has to be more like mid-scale companies where you can find those little gold stars here and there. And so you're people who have lived your entire life seeking praise, seeking validation, and all of a sudden it gets ripped away at 22. And you're just not, you can't quit that kind of addiction cold turkey. You need to seek validation elsewhere. And where else than the 20 hours a week that we spend in screen time? Yeah.
And there's always going to be someone who's willing to praise you on the internet, even for whatever, but it's always funny because I feel like most of the time it's not. I feel like the lack of praise can be even worse if you look at it from the sense of you're likelier to get someone who tries to ruin your day than someone who's trying to uplift you, unfortunately.
Yeah. 100%. And I feel like, honestly, that fact makes you work even harder for the praise. Which makes, like, you've already put this praise on such a pedestal that once you finally get it, the dopamine rush is just insane.
Right.
And you're going to go and chase it forever,
Yeah, funny enough. And I feel like the one place where I see that happen the most is in YouTube comments.
Oh, yeah?
Because ever since YouTube enabled that edit comment feature, you see people who comment on a video and then the comment blows up. Like on a Mr. Beast video or on a... he's the only creator I can think of. I'm blanking right now. But like, whoever gets the most likes on a video like that is going to have a couple 100,000 likes, right? And then you always see it. You press the little more button to expand the comment because it doesn't fit in the initial like space. And underneath it's like, edit. Oh my gosh, this is the most amount of likes I've gotten. Thank you so much, guys. And it's just wild to me that people would like come back to that and just, they view that as a big accomplishment. And it's like, yes, 100,000 people agreed and enjoyed your input. But at the same time, it's like, well, when is that ever going to happen again?
Right.
And it's so funny because I would imagine that that's just going to incentivizes people to try to comment on everything, seeking that kind of massive validation again.
That's exactly what it does, and that's why you end up with subscribers to YouTube channels who are like first, they get there and they're like, I'm the first one to comment.
I hated those.
Oh,
I still do.
And that's exactly what it is, though. That's one person who probably either saw that the creator will like the first comment, or that the first comment gets a ton of likes on it, and maybe they either saw it and are trying to emulate it, or it happened to them once and now they're just going to be chasing that high ever since.
And do you think that that's a problem, though? I mean, I don't think it's think about it. Most of the time it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you. But do you think it's a problem if it's something that you have to rely on in order to feel any kind of worth or happiness?
I definitely think that if it takes to the extreme of your self-worth and your happiness is dependent on it, of course it's a problem. Because your self-worth and your happiness should come from within, right? If we're speaking on a very secular level of things, yeah, your self-worth and your happiness should come from you, from yourself, from within. You should just be content with who you are and how you are because of who and what you are. If we are looking at it in a more Christian view, we know that our self-worth is placed on our Savior, that I'm worthy because the Lord sees me as worthy, and my happiness is temporary, but my joy is holy.
Yeah.
And that being said, like, I don't need anything of the material world to make me happy. You know, my joy is set. My joy is set in that I have everlasting life. My joy is set in that I have a Father who loves me, and that I have a seat at his table, you know?
Yep.
What the world can provide to me is only additive from that point forward, meaning it cannot be subtractive. There is nothing that the world can do that's going to steal my holy joy. But it might steal my happiness. But happiness is a temporary thing that ebbs and flows in life.
Yeah.
So at that point, anything in the world is only additive from that point forward. But if you don't have that foundation, if you don't have that holy joy, and you don't have your self-worth set in place, then, yeah, you're going to be clout chasing for a while to find that happiness. And it's not going to come. Yeah. You know? Because at the end of the day, there was nothing spectacular about your comment. It just so happened to hit at the right time, at the right place, where that many people were online, and with every like, with every subsequent like, that comment got pushed up higher and higher on the comment list. Mm-hmm. It's just a stroke of luck. You just so happen to say the right things to the right people at the right time. You know, there's no formula for it. There's nothing that I can say other than reading the room. If we're all hating on this person, writing a hateful comment will likely get you lots of likes. If we're all feeling good vibes about a certain video and I, post a really uplifting comment, that may get a lot of likes. But it depends. Did you post your comment at 3 a.m? You're not going to get very many likes as you do at 12 p.m.
When that video was posted.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so funny because now they have the whole notification systems in place. Like, get notified when your favorite creator gets posts something or uploads
the bell.
Yeah, and then the bell.
Yeah, YouTube bell.
Yeah, or they have what do they call it now? Premiere. You can premiere your video, and they have a timer that says, "Oh, this video is going to be online in
5 minutes." Yeah,
5 minutes. So you just turn the video on and you just run towards the comments.
Yep.
But since we're speaking about comments, I hate to take it down the route of... I mean, we already spoke on it a little bit, but I hate to take it down the route of negativity, but anonymity. Anonymity online's given a lot of people the courage to say and do things that they would never do in person. Why do you think that is?
I think because there's no consequence attached.
Mm-hmm.
When you're anonymous, when you are user 12345 with just an emblem for a profile, nobody can target your personhood. Nobody knows if you're male, female. Nobody knows if you're gay, straight, bi, trans, whatever it may be. Nobody knows whether you're liberal or conservative, whether you're black or white or Asian. There's nothing that they can tack onto your personhood. You're just a standalone floating comment with nothing attached to it. And so that gives you so much power. Because you can put out the nastiest, meanest comment ever. You could destroy someone's self-worth, someone's self-esteem, and still go to work and clap up all of your friends at work, and everyone in your life still thinks that you're a great person. And you're still getting that outside praise in many different forums, you can still write out the nastiest comment and have your pastor hug you on Sunday morning, have your mom say you're the best son in the world or the best daughter in the world, your partner's going to come home and give you a kiss. Nothing changes for your life. You are still on everybody's good side. You have no consequences.
I wouldn't say that there is no consequences, though. I feel like depending on what you say, if it gets enough traction, it might even get to the authorities, honestly.
Well, of course. I mean, if you say something heinous and illegal, somebody could always... The FBI can definitely track your IP address, But under the assumption that what you said was just like, you're ugly, I hate you, go kill yourself, something really mean like that, At the end of the day, the consequence is that creator's going to block you, so you don't get to spread your hate anymore. Users might report you, and then your account gets taken down, you know. Or you may get a bunch of other faceless, nameless people saying that you're a terrible person, to which case you could just log out of your account and never see that again. There are many people, they're called burner channels, who will create accounts, or burner accounts, who will create accounts that don't have profile pictures, no usernames, and they just create them to spread hate, and when they get taken down, you just create a new one. And you go back and you do it over and over and over again, sometimes with the same creators, and you just chase them down like that. Because they realize that there's no real consequence to their real life. There's a consequence in the immediate area, but, yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting, though, because we've heard about the topic of parasocial relationships and how those end up developing. Mm-hmm. And before the advent of social media, what was it, back in 2003? Yeah. Before the advent of social media, people had parasocial relationships, but they weren't with somebody that they've gotten to know inside and out because they post everything on their social media. It was with celebrities. And that's why paparazzi and tabloids were such a popular medium, because they would always have the juicy scoop on so-and-so's love life.
Right.
Why do you think that people want to have these parasocial relationships? Why do you think they develop? And I'm not even asking just for recent times with YouTubers, because I can tell you that's just people who they admire because of the content they create, just letting you into their lives and vlogging every day. But what do you think about humans makes us want to have these parasocial relationships, like with celebrities?
Well, we definitely know that human beings are social creatures, right? One of our requirements to live is actually relationship with each other, right? Like, you can't just, like, you could take care of a baby completely, meet every single one of its needs, but if you just leave it in a crib, it'll die. It needs social stimulation. And so I feel like just, we're such social creatures, and celebrities are an interesting thing. And I'll say public figures are an interesting thing, because there's something you have a perceived access to. It's something that you think you have access to, but you really don't. They're so public. They're so out there. You're seeing so much of them, and yet none of them at the same time. You have no idea what their personal lives is like. And then I feel like a lot of people see it as a denial. Like, there's almost this entitlement where if you're public and you're choosing to put your life out in the public, I have a right to see every nook and cranny of your private life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's made worse now because of social media, because, not just YouTubers, but just social media personalities, as opposed to, like, Hollywood personalities, are so intimate with their following. They're so intimate. I mean, the amount of times where I've seen a house tour, and I just know what the entire inside of your home looks like,
Yeah.
Where we are some of the first to find out that you're pregnant, what your baby's name is, where you went and bought all your baby stuff, you vlogged your entire labor and delivery. I mean, that is intimate. Yeah. That is crazy intimate. And you're sharing it with thousands, sometimes millions of people, And then when life does what life does, and you go through a hard patch, and suddenly you don't want to show that off, everyone around you is like, but you showed us everything else. Don't we deserve to see the bad too? Oh, you're going through a nasty divorce? Well, I saw your entire labor and delivery. You posted your wedding video online. I can't see the divorce now? Mm-hmm. And it's like, of course, you as a person have the right to set the boundary and say, no, I don't want you to see this, actually. But that's where that parasocial relationship comes in, is where these people are thinking, like, but we were close. You let me into your life. I thought we were close.
And in reality, no, it's like, it's that whole thing about I'm your best friend, but
you're not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You as the viewer are being let in on such deeply personal, such deeply intimate things that you feel like you've, especially if it's like, I'll just use this as an example, like if it's a YouTuber that's been on YouTube for 10, 12, 15 years, and you feel like you grew up alongside this person, it's like you feel deeply connected because you see their face every single day, you know, as often as they post. But you're just user number 1 in a million to that guy, you know, or to that person. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe they took the time to respond to one of your comments or respond to one of your DMs, but that's all you are, is a comment and a DM to that person. They may say that they care about the fan base in general, and that can be true, that they are very appreciative because they wouldn't be where they are in life without your engagement. But you're not nearly as close to them as they are to you.
People can't handle that.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate because all that time, all that effort spent getting close to someone, having this one-sided relationship with someone, could have been spent fostering, you know, in-person relationships that would have helped you grow as a person, help you develop, help you achieve better potential, like your better potential.
Yeah.
And I understand that desire to get to know, to want to be in the know. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't, even if my best friend wanted to like keep an entire part of his life away from me, that's his right.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Like, we've known each other, what is it, like 20 years? Mm. If he got a girlfriend and he's like, hey, I don't want to introduce her to anyone, I want to keep her really private, I hope you understand that, I would say, yeah, no problem. I wouldn't feel slighted in any kind of way. Right. Because at the end of the day, the only people who have access to you are those that you allow to have access to you. And I feel like a lot of people aren't okay with that. Like, to be denied is just... I feel like it causes like a negative feedback loop. Because then they start looking at themselves like, what did I do wrong? What issue did I cause to make you not like me enough to let me in this part of your life?
They see it as a slight.
Yeah, they see it as a slight.
Yeah.
And I think that's just comes from never being told no and never learning to set proper boundaries. Like, we hear the word boundaries tossed around a lot, but I look at a celebrity that hates the paparazzi like Tobey Maguire, and I'm like, yeah, he should absolutely have a right to get in his car and not worry about accidentally running someone over with it, like in that video.
Yeah.
And but then I also see the side of the fan where like you said, I'm part of the reason that you have so much in your life, that you have this lifestyle, that you have this business, this channel. And it's like, yeah, you do feel like you're owed something, but I feel like that's where you really need to come to understand what this kind of relationship is and acknowledge it for what it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people already have such a hard time establishing boundaries within their intimate relationships of life, with parents, with siblings, with, you know, partners. I'm not surprised that they're not able to set proper boundaries with people who don't even know they exist. Mm-hmm. You know, and you had mentioned that, you know, like, imagine if you had taken all that time that you spent invested in this person and you had put it towards relationships that actually, you know, fulfill your life and continue to make your life grow and make you a better person. But they wouldn't. They wouldn't typically, because those things take effort. Those things take you having to get up off the screen and go out and meet people, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, because like 3/4 of our generation is socially anxious at this point. And put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, put yourself in a position where you may be judged off of first basis, you know, off of something such as looks or the way that you walk or the way you talk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to make an assessment of you, which this YouTuber, for example, or that celebrity doesn't make an assessment of you because they don't see you. They don't perceive you. You know, there's nothing for them to assess, which is why you feel so validated, especially when you share similar views or similar values, similar morals as this person that you're watching. You're like, oh, we would make the best of friends because we clearly agree on everything. And it's like, well, that doesn't always translate to in person, though.
Yeah, because they're showing you the best sides of them.
Yeah.
Most often.
Or even then, they're talking to a camera in their own house where there's no one else home. It's very different when you're face to face with somebody. You know, especially you come from different cultures, different backgrounds, you know, just being being from the deep south and being someone from Boston, you know, like these differences in just where you grew up will make a difference in how you act and how you are as a person, and therefore make a difference in whether or not you guys click and vibe, you know. But fostering relationships, real life relationships, that takes effort, a lot of time has to be invested into nurturing those relationships, and desire needs to be put in it. And if you just do not want to go through that quote-unquote hassle of having to text them back, of having to get on FaceTime, of having to call them up, of having to go and make arrangements to go see each other out in person, to invite them over to your social gatherings, if that is not something that you want to place your time into, you're not going to reap the benefit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those low maintenance friends.
Yeah.
You know, that's us. You could honestly not talk to us for months and we see each other and it'll be like we saw each other yesterday.
Yep.
But that doesn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think honestly, the fact that we are low maintenance friends tells you something about us, is that we're very secure in our relationships, in the sense that, like, I know I didn't do anything wrong, you know, and if I did, that's kind of your responsibility to bring it up to me. But also just this security of, like, I don't need validation from my friends. Like, I know who I am, I know I'm a good person without my friends being there telling me you're a good person, you know? And just the fact that we're like, hey man, boundaries exist, life comes first.
Yeah.
You know, I would never expect you to prioritize me over your husband, or me over your job, or me over your career, or me over school. Like, I'm here to be additive to your life.
Yeah.
Not to, you know, continue to subtract from you.
Yeah, the clearest example of that was when we had the board game night last week, before your first day of school.
Mm-hmm.
You had sent a text message to our friends saying, like, hey, I can't stay up late because I gotta get up early tomorrow. I gotta get a lot of things done tonight. So we're gonna, like, I still want to hang out with you guys, but I might have to dip out early. Like, you guys are free. Like, you guys can keep hanging out if you want, but I'm just setting that expectation.
Right.
And everyone's cool with it.
Of course, yeah. Because I think, you know, we have a great group of friends who also understand boundaries and understand, like, it's not that I'm not important. It's just that, like, levels of importance changes depending on the season of life you're in. Mm-hmm. You know, like, whenever you have your first child and you're in those newborn stages, it's not that your friends aren't important. It's just that clearly there's something more important right now. And maybe in 6 months, it'll be, you know, like, you'll be maybe come up a little bit in the priorities because, you know, he's on a nap schedule and I can deal with that. But right here, right now, in this season of life, my levels of importance are not on you. And that's okay. If you're secure in our relationship, that shouldn't be a threat.
But I honestly think it's people putting their value onto others. Wait, no. It's people determining their own value by what other people view them as or perceive them as. Mm. I'm horrible at talking. You get what I'm saying, though, right? Like, yeah. Your value doesn't come from within. It comes from other people.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And it really just shows. It really just shows when stuff like that happens, where you have to prioritize yourself or your family or something that honestly requires more of your attention than they do, and then they get upset about it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of shows you, and it's a great model to structure what you decide is a good support system.
Yeah.
You know, because support systems are not supposed to make you feel worse about not prioritizing them. You know, you're like, Joyce and I have been together for 3 years now, and we have been through many different seasons of life where we were both in school at one point, where, you know, we kind of took turns. One of us was in school, the other one wasn't. We went through seasons of life where he was working full time and I was in school, and then I was working full time and then he was in school. And those seasons changed a lot about our relationship. Not being able to stay out late, not being able to go on as many dates, you know, having to prioritize the fact that we, you know, equally had to do homework or had to task on certain things, couldn't talk on the phone all day. My job and his job as a partner to each other and being in each other's support system was not to burden them by telling them, hey, you're not making enough time for me. Hey, can you, like, pay attention to me? I need more of you. Rather understanding this is a short season. You know, a semester is 3, maybe 4 months long.
4.
For those 4 months, yeah, we're not going to be going on dates every Friday night.
Right.
You know, and I shouldn't be putting that pressure on him because he needs my support. He needs me to help him hold up the weight of this really heavy thing. And that's how you should evaluate your entire support system. When you think to yourself, okay, well, do I have a support system? Do I have people in my life who are not going to add to the stress and to the pressure, and instead help me lift the weight of the stress and the pressure that's already on my life?
Right. Yeah, because I remember, especially when I decided to go back to school for my second bachelor's, like, I sat you down and said, hey, I'm going to need this from you if I'm going to do this. Because I need to study. I need to do a lot better in school than I did the first time. And I will at the same time make sure to make you a priority when school isn't the priority.
Yeah. That I would be second in that list.
Yeah.
It was always, we had such a clear communication that his priorities at the time was like God first, school second, Emily third. Mm-hmm. And I could be a terrible partner and a terrible supporter in his support system and say that's not good enough, I need to be number 1. Or I could say, you know what, in this season of life right now, I'm okay being in the 3rd spot.
And it was always, the idea was always that it was temporary.
Yeah, it was temporary. And it was you and me against the problem, not you against me.
Right.
You know, that was like a huge thing for us. It's always you and me against the problem. It was you and me tackling school. It was school at the time. It could be other things in other people's lives. But it was you and me carrying the weight of that together so that your knees didn't buckle under the pressure of it all. Mm-hmm. You know? And I think it's really important that people, like, as you're kind of evaluating your support systems, also understand that you have a responsibility to tell people what you need. How can I support you? You can't just assume that people are going to know how to support you. Mm-hmm. You know, rather sitting, like, the way you sat me down and said, this is how I need you to support me. It's not about, you know, giving me hugs and making me feel better when I don't do well on a test. Rather, it's I need time, or I need space, or I need to concentrate. You know, like, don't come over tonight because I really have to focus for this test, and if you come over, I just won't be able to focus. You know, that kind of stuff. But, like, giving your support system clear guidelines helps, too. Because sometimes people want to support you. They want to be there for you. They just don't know how.
Yeah. And it always ends up being a guessing game, and that can cause even more problems, funny enough. Yeah. Because clear communication just makes things easier.
So much easier.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we diverged a little bit from the original topic, but I like that we touched on that. I feel like that's something that we should put out there. But in regards to social media, we have this, I kind of view it as is it an epidemic or a pandemic?
An epidemic.
An epidemic?
I think so.
I think we have an epidemic of oversharing.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Like, everywhere I go... Well, let me start off by saying this. I was always of the idea that media literacy is important. That what you see online is not always the full story.
Yeah.
It could be the truth, but maybe only half of the truth. And people, I would often say to people who didn't... Like, the people around me, I would say, Well, don't if whenever I heard or saw them comparing themselves to someone online, saying like, "Oh, I should be at this point in my life because so and so is like 2 years younger than me, and they're already like 5 steps ahead of where I need to, where I think I need to be."
Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about how emotion, like comparison, is the
thief of joy.
The thief of joy.
Yeah.
But I went on a tangent again. The people have gotten into the habit of not just of basically subverting what I said, because I would always tell my friends, people are always posting their highlight reels. They're never showing you the tears. They're never showing you the lies, the disagreements, like the arguments.
Yeah.
Because especially for social media personalities, because their job is to make you feel good about watching their content. And watching their content, nobody wants to watch somebody who's sad. But I feel like that's not the case anymore. I can't tell people that they're showing a highlight reel because everywhere I look, someone's crying online for whatever reason. Some people are recording their divorces.
Yeah.
And it's kind of antithetical to what you said earlier, that they're not showing the divorce anymore. Well, it depends on who they are. But now people are showing those kinds of things. Why do you think that people are oversharing now?
Oh, 100% it's a pity grab.
Yeah.
100% it is. I think it depends on who it's coming from, right? Because I genuinely feel like there can certainly be people who are going through a hard time and want to share that hard time with the sincerest desire to make somebody else online feel like they're not alone. Right? Where they're like, I felt so incredibly alone in this moment. I want to share so that if I could even help just one person feel not alone, it'll be worth it.
That's pretty noble.
That is pretty noble. And I think that there are certain people out there who do it for that reason. But I also feel like there are certain people out there who do it for the sympathy. Who do it because they're like, in my life, in my personal life, I am not getting the sympathy I need, the support or the encouragement. And so they'll put it out there, seeking validation, seeking people, anything, anyone, any voice to say, you're going to be okay. You know, like, hey, you're going to get through this, you know, which I honestly think is really sad. And I don't think it's a healthy way of going about doing things. I think for that reason, therapy is really important, you know, and restructuring your support systems and finding and bridging relationships is really important. But it's so much easier to just set up a camera, cry on camera, and post it. You know?
Yeah. I think, honestly, even in that case where you just don't have the support system IRL, I don't think it's the worst thing to go online and look for it. I think, like you said, it could be better because that should come from within, like we said earlier. But when you really have nothing else, I can see why, and I can understand why you might want to rely on that quote-unquote tribe that you've established online, whether it's through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, even on Discord, or Pinterest, like you said.
Yeah.
Because we never want to be alone. And you mentioned it earlier that we're social creatures, we're humans. We need to socialize, or else we will literally just move on from this mortal coil. Like you mentioned that you mentioned earlier that if you take care of a baby's, like a newborn's biological needs, you feed them, burp them, change their diaper, but then you just leave them in a crib 24/7 with no human interaction, they too will let go of this mortal coil. And that's not just like an anecdote. That was an unfortunate experiment that happened way long ago.
Yeah.
That
pre-ethics.
Yeah, pre-ethics. Woo. But yeah, when you feel isolated and alone, I can understand why even just a small validation from someone online, even if it's a total stranger, might just be what you need.
Yeah.
To help you get to the next day. But I feel like at this point it's become an unfortunate situation where people just want to get some kind of content, some kind of pity, because they'll use it to fix their problems instead of, actually dealing with them.
Right. Yeah.
Like whenever you see those YouTube apology videos because somebody's past online interactions, those consequences we were talking about earlier came up. What is the first thing they do? They set up their camera. They have the heartfelt music in the background.
A gray hoodie. That's like kind of like a meme.
Really?
Is that that like people always do apology videos in a gray hoodie?
I didn't know that. They're bringing color theory into
it's
it.
It's quantifiable at this point.
But yeah, it tears on the internet, I feel like, are now being used in a manipulative way.
I definitely think that there are certain people who definitely use it in that way. I think...
But it feels like the majority.
Maybe we're just consuming different media. It's quite possible. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not... Like I said, I'm not very online. I don't consider myself a chronically online person.
Yeah.
But I also know that it could be very hurtful to say to somebody that your pain is manipulative.
Mm.
And I know that sometimes people are just like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I get it that you think this is stupid, but I'm crying over it because it really hurts.
But why do you need to put it online, though?
Yeah. I mean, for the reasons that you said, maybe they need human contact in some way.
Well, I was talking more about the people who messed up and now their social media life is crumbling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a whole thing in and of itself, though. I think, like, communities and stuff like that, like, large-scale, like, public influencer communities are just very toxic. And apologies may or may not come off as sincere, unfortunately.
But at the same time, I can also see the fans going a little too far into it. Because there was this one, the latest one that happened with that girl that had the convention.
The convention?
MoJoCon? MoJoCon?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I'm not chronically online.
I watch the news online. That's why I know about this. But yeah, this girl, very popular. Her friend's tweets got brought back up.
Uh-huh.
And I think she made like 4 apology videos.
Okay.
And it's just like, at this point, everyone just had critiques. The first apology video wasn't sincere enough for many people, so she made another one. The other one didn't feel like she even knew what she was talking about. The third one, crocodile tears, and it's like, I feel like at that point you might as well just,
Stop apologizing.
stop apologizing.
Yeah, no, I get you. I feel like there's a limit. There's a limit, and it's, you kind of have one shot to be sincere. And just be like, hey, if you really actually feel bad about this, say it in the best way you know how and let it go. Because people are going to get over it eventually.
Yeah.
I think, like, a great example of this, and you're going to know as soon as I say this name, but I think Jaclyn Hill is a great example of that, where it's like her social media career just, like, crumbled in front of her, and no amount of apology videos, no amount of explanation, no amount of anything was gonna fix it, And I just she had like she was on a podcast recently with Taylor Lautner and his wife. They have a podcast called The Squeeze. You guys should definitely go watch it after you watch this.
You mean Shark Boy?
Yes, Shark Boy. Jacob. And on that podcast, they talked about like her huge lipstick scandal and whatnot. That lipstick scandal felt like every single product in the United States was like corrupted. Like it was just like every single product was somehow mismanufactured or had an issue. Turns out that out of all of her, so they did a huge quality control like assessment. Only 2% of the product was defective. But that 2% was so loud that they just absolutely tore apart her career. Like, completely dismantled it, destroyed her reputation, destroyed her credibility. And she had to completely just, like I said, it was like the gray hoodie, crying, no makeup on, just apology video, past apology video, past like post and PR post and PR post. And then it just got to a point where she was like, you know what? I'm just going to move on and pretend it didn't happen and just keep going, Mm-hmm. And she completely reinvented herself. I mean, her Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics line was groundbreaking in the makeup industry world. She has since shut down that brand. In the meantime, she's like on a little self journey, like, figuring herself out and enjoying her life as she should. I think it's so healthy to get to a point where she's like, okay, like, I'm done. Like, I did the thing. I fell apart, reinvented myself. I'm in a happy place now. I just want to focus on things that are not me on social media, And I think that's so incredibly healthy. And I think that's the way you honestly should go about doing things, where it's like, if you're going to be a public figure and you mess up, which you will, we all do, we're human, but the internet is grueling and unforgiving. Mm-hmm. You post your apology video. Who cares if it wasn't good enough for everyone? It's only really got to be good enough for you and the person or group of people you're apologizing to.
Yep.
And then move on. Let it go. Just let it all crumble and build up from there.
Yeah. And honestly, I think what she did, and what honestly other people, like other social media influencers, do once they've burnt themselves out and they decide to take a break from it all, I think that's something that everyone should do. It's healthy.
Yeah.
Because even I realized that I was addicted to social media, because it is a drug. It's one that we don't acknowledge as a drug, but I think the American Psychological Association is starting to come up with starting to define new, not disorders, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, new disorders involving social media, one of which is addiction. But I stopped watching YouTube as part of a fast that our church was doing for like a month. And when that fast started in September, babe, I didn't watch YouTube for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was honestly the most liberating thing, because I realized I couldn't do anything without YouTube playing in the background.
Yeah.
I couldn't brush my teeth without a YouTube video playing. And it really put that into perspective for me, that social media is definitely something we have to be careful with. Something that we have to improve literacy on.
It's definitely something you can overconsume.
And honestly, not letting it have such a big hold of your life, I think, is honestly, if that's the only takeaway we can give you, I think that's the best one. Agreed?
I agree, yeah.
Well, that's time.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love having you here. We've been loving the interactions we've been getting. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Center Podcast Official. And follow us on YouTube at The Center Podcast Official. And we will see you guys next week on Friday at 7 p.m. Bye.
Bye.